Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington Commanders update, and I'm your host, Candy CWall Waller of Bowie Television, coming to you on this live recording to give you all the latest and greatest information on the Washington Commanders. It is the closeout of week 10. It is a short week for the team heading right into Thursday night football to kick off week 11. You all come on in. This is the live game recap from the Commanders losing by 1 point to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You all, if you are tuned in through the YouTube channel, hello. I certainly hope, and I'm happy that you're viewing, but I'm certainly hope that you're also subscribed to the channel. If you are watching through Facebook, make sure you hit that love button and share this show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends. You can share it as well if you're watching the live on YouTube. I strongly and highly encourage everyone be subscribed to Bowie TV because we have some of the dopest and coolest producers and shows in the area, always to be viewed on the YouTube channel. If you're in the area and have not cut your cable, you can find Bowie TV on Verizon Channel 11 and Comcast Xfinity Channel 77. You all know the drill. You have to say hello to Mama Waller and Papa Waller as well, because they are always watching at some point. I see one of the biggest Commanders fans, and Tina Moore has joined. My cousin is on. Family members, friends, we all become family at some point, it seems like, right, you all? So make sure you are sharing the show. Tap people in. This is an opportunity, Commanders fans, to share your thoughts, share all the things. This conversation, I try to make it as interactive as possible. So I will try to get to as many questions, comments as I possibly can. This show also includes some clips. So for this episode, I got to pull some receipts, y'all. You know how I am. I got to go back in time to say, hey, this is what we heard already. So we should have known what to expect from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm going to definitely pull some receipts. Y'all got to start pulling on some receipts because it's time to pull receipts. It's receipts pulling time. And we definitely are going to go into some of the pressers from after the game as well as today with head coach Dan Quinn. So let's go ahead and get started, you all. You know, I love to play this game. And I have a few games. I have a few crowd engagement interactions that I want to make sure we get through. And then we're going to go ahead and get into the conversation as well. First things first, what is your one word? What's your one word, Commanders fans, to describe how you were feeling after the game was over, after it was officially official? The team has gone down. They're down to 3 losses on the year. Now add the Pittsburgh Steelers to the teams that they have lost to. Drop in the chat how you were feeling. What is your one word? And I will try to share as many of those thoughts as possible. Listen, everyone knew this was going to be a hard game. So drop your one word to describe how you were feeling. Everyone knew that this was going to be a tough game. Tina Moore said she was sad. You all go ahead and drop some more words in the chat for how you were feeling. This was going to be a tough one. Everyone knew this. We'd even talked about, okay, well, the Pittsburgh Steelers are coming off a bye. So maybe that will, be of some advantage to the Washington Commanders. But hey, Mike Tomlin is a pro's pro. So he has a great record coming off a bye. So that wasn't going to impact him too much at all. But despite all the sloppiness of the Washington Commanders, I must say, them only losing by 1 point kind of shocked me. I was like, wow, in future, or not future, past Commanders teams would have lost by much more than that. But I think the team did what they could, of course, in the time allotted. But hey, there were so many opportunities for this team to move it forward, and they didn't. They absolutely didn't. I mean, to be up 24-14 in the third quarter and then lose 28-27, that stings. That stings a lot. So if there's really no excuses for things like that, when that happens, I'm just going to be honest. When you get to a certain level, there's really no excuse for things like that, other than you just made some major mistakes. And if you saw my post, I definitely said I was starting off with this, and then we're going to get into some more of the crowd engagement as well as some clips from last week, because the coordinators and Dan Quinn said exactly where the Steelers were strong, and we saw all of that reveal itself on the field yesterday. Point blank period. The first 14 points for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a DPI on Benjamin St. Juste, roughing the passer call on Jeremy Chin. I don't even think the Pittsburgh Steelers made a first down in their first offensive drive because they didn't have to. The penalties got them down the field as well as the play, but the penalties got them down the field. Then the almost gut-wrenching fumble by wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus, in which the Steelers recovered on Washington's 14. And you know that another touchdown there. So that's 14 points right there, just based on mistakes, penalties, and a fumble. And when you are playing a team that is just of the consistency of the elite that has coached and played for this team, you just can't make these kind of mistakes all throughout the game, because we didn't even get to all of the drops. But you can't make these kind of mistakes throughout a game and expect to win. Now, I was still super impressed. Like, wow, after all of that, the Commanders just might win this game. But the mistakes were all throughout until the very last minute. And we all know about that, right? We all know what happened. And like I said, we're going to get into some of that. If you all have just tuned in, make sure you're sharing this show with your Washington Commanders loving family and friends. This is an opportunity on this live Bowie television recording with myself, Candy CWall Waller, to just engage, ask questions, make comments about the game. We definitely try to make this as engaging and interactive as possible. So with that being said, I've already asked you what's your one word to describe how you were feeling after that loss. Listen, it couldn't have all been bad, right? There was some good moments. There was some good things. There was definitely some moments that you were like, ooh, look, that went well. That was executed. Wow, look at him go. You had to say there was something that went well. So despite the loss, drop in the chat, who was your favorite Commander versus the Pittsburgh Steelers and why? Who was your favorite? There had to be a player or players that you said, you know what? Yep, they lost, but here was some really dope moments that I want to make sure I articulate and make sure I get my chance to share what I really enjoyed about the game, despite the loss. I can tell you right now, Terry McLaurin had a very good day. I really enjoyed Terry McLaurin and that pouncing that he did on Joey Porter Jr., because that's what it was. That is exactly what it was. Okay, Terry McLaurin had himself a time, and I see that Tina Moore shared. Terry was hers as well. How about Zane Gonzalez? Can we give it up for a team that had just a whirlwind of all the things that could possibly go wrong when it came to kickers all throughout camp, to land Austin Seibert, then to come across and be able to sign Zane Gonzalez? Listen, special teams are important. Kickers are very important. Kickers are very, very important. And hey, I was pleased with Zane Gonzalez. Let me also say this too. Was it Jayden Daniels' best game? No, it was not Jayden Daniels' best game. But let me tell you something. Jayden Daniels is how that team scored 27 points, because if it wasn't getting into the red zone or getting down the field, it was getting into field goal range. So, hey, if this is a situation where he can be inaccurate at times and still be able to, on the offense, get 27 points on the board, that's not so bad. Not so bad. And as Tina has here, which I totally agree, besides the roughing the passer penalty, Jeremy Chin, yet again, played very well. Played very, very well. So I cannot at all, those players can't complain. Drop in the chat if there was someone else that you think shined or made their presence known, while we have to move on to this one, which was who was your least favorite? Who was your least favorite? Now, we know there was some times that it for sure did not go the Commanders' way. And hey, and folks are still reeling, but I guess we all got to move forward. I'm definitely going to show receipts. Let me be clear. And I see that Curtis Price and Eric Jessup has joined as well. So drop in the chat your least favorite Commander and why. We see that folks are already pointing out the secondary. We see that, and those conversations are coming through. And, I played something on my last episode over the weekend where, Joe Witt is going to go to bat for his guys, and he wants it to be known. And sometimes guys are just going to get beat, and other times it's just going to look bad. And other times it's, you're going to try to make it work. But I feel like it's so unfortunate most times, because at this point, I think this is like the fifth or sixth, maybe DPI he has. Maybe it's the fifth. I'm not sure. But it's almost like, unfortunately, you feel like it's going to happen every game. So that stings. That definitely stings. And I think everybody is reeling, but they do have to move on. Here's what I want to say, because there's certainly some things I want to share in terms of just some of this stuff we talked about in the last episode. Let's go ahead and play. I think I still have it, which is just Joe Witt Jr. I can pick any one of them. Let's pick this one. Joe Witt Jr. talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's move to this one. Hey, Coach, so you kind of already addressed one of the questions I had about the previous game, because you mentioned tight end Theo Johnson's touchdown. So you addressed that. I won't go back to that one. But for the upcoming game, what are some of the strengths that you have seen so far in the Steelers offense at quarterback? They have seen success with both Justin Fields and now Russell Wilson. So what have you seen specifically out of that position?
Well, Russell, for a long time, he's a guy that plays on time. Okay. He can get outside the pocket. He doesn't run as much as he used to, but he still can create and get the ball where he wants to. Like I talked about, he's very accurate outside the numbers. He understands the run checks and how to if he sees a look that he doesn't like, how to get him into the right run. So he's a smart quarterback. Justin, he's smart as well, very athletic. They probably pull him and run him more, like the Giants did with Daniel. You have to really concern yourself with his feet. But it's really a whole offense that Arthur wants to run. They're a run first, play action. Let's shoot the ball up the field and control it and play to their defense. They have a really good defense.
So while I'm sharing these clips in terms of receipts, meaning when asked last week, based on what the coordinators and head coach said, drop in the chat the things that you actually saw. Like, they already know what this team is going to bring. So it should not have been a shock to any of us. It certainly wasn't a shock to me once I saw based on film and as well as what the coaches articulated, the Steelers do very well. Here is a comment from Coach Kingsbury on the Steelers defense. What are some of the strengths that you've seen so far this season in the Steelers defense?
Yeah, taking the ball away and creating negative plays. They're coverage-wise very sticky in man coverage when they decide to do that, and then the pass rush, it doesn't leave you much room for error. So you have to be very precise. You have to stay on schedule, and there's going to be some plays that we got to find ways to get the ball out of our hands and not, take negative plays on first and second down.
So right there, exactly that last part that Cliff Kingsbury shared is key, because you saw it. You saw where it created, when he talks about creating negative plays, this is where you may have seen some of the loss in yardage, where we saw sacks, where we saw Jayden not be as accurate as we're used to seeing, because that Steelers defensive line, and they got some monsters at linebacker. Word to Patrick Quinn. They were getting to him quickly. They were getting to him very fast. And again, what did Coach Kingsbury say? What did we just hear him say in that clip? Ways to get, you got to be accurate. You got to get the ball out fast. That's what he's talking about. We saw it in real time. Jayden didn't even have a lot of time to really run. You saw a Steelers defense that had clearly done their Commanders offense homework. They did their Jayden Daniels homework. They said, hey, we know you can run. We know you can throw. But with us, you're not going to be able to do both. You saw a very efficient and effective defense that was working according to the strengths of the quarterback on the other side of the scrimmage line. That's really what it was. And you heard Coach Kingsbury say exactly what they were good at. That's why I asked the question, so that when you see it, you'll know, okay, this is why these issues are happening. This is why these challenges are happening. But I must say, again, was it Jayden Daniels' best game? No, it was not. But the drops on offense, completely unacceptable. And when he was able to get the balls out, when he was able to, when he had a dime, it was mostly drop. Let's just keep it a buck. Then he was able to execute and still get the team either into the red zone or in the field goal range. With all the inaccuracy, with all of the drops, the team scored 27 offensive points. I was still very impressed by that. But this is why we ask these kind of questions, so that you can see and listen and know what you're watching when it's happening. Immediately when I saw how the offense was moving and how Jayden was moving, I was like, this is exactly what Coach Kingsbury said was going to happen. This is exactly what Coach Kingsbury said the Steelers defense does very, very well. And they did. But the Commanders still scored 27. I do think that's a very important point. I really do. Seriously. Because Steelers defense did their thing for sure. But the Commanders offense still scored 27. They still only lost by 1 point. And that is with a very impressive Steelers defense. Those linebackers, buddy, I was like, good Lord. I'm seeing too many negative comments about Jayden Daniels. I'm seeing way too many negative comments, even though I had some negative to say too, about the overall performance of the offense. But to still only lose by 1 point is bad, because that hurts. It's like you were right there. You take a third of those mistakes away, the Commanders can win this football game, flat out. You take those first 3 mistakes in the DPI, the roughing the passer call, and the Zacchaeus fumble, you take potentially 14 points away from the opponent. But we go back through, and I pull these receipts because it is so important for us to really be listening to what the coaches are saying that the opponent is good at, so that when you see the team struggling or needing to adjust, you know what you're watching. It is not to be alarmed. It is to see how they respond in adversity. I think Jayden Daniels responded just fine, the best that he could, but he can't throw and catch the football. That's the thing. That's the thing. Now, I think also because he was speeding up the tempo and getting the ball out, he might have been throwing that thing with some zip. Might have had some smoke on it. I think I posted that. I said, I think Jayden is throwing this football with some heat because he's moving faster. So everything is just faster, including this football. So I think that is a very, very important point because this is simply what the Steelers are good at. And we all cannot expect the other team not to be prepared. You just can't expect that. Did you see how happy the Steelers were at the end? They were happy. They were happy they got out of there with a win because, hey, listen, people, the word is out on the Washington Commanders. The word is out. And they had something for them. And as bad as the Commanders played, the Commanders had something for them too. Okay, so that's what it is. I'm going to then move to even what Dan Quinn said about Russell Wilson. You saw these things. This is why I asked these questions. My colleague David Harrison, he asked this question, I believe, on Russell Wilson. They're going to tell you what they're good at. So when you're watching the football game, you can't get too frustrated because you got to say, hey, this is exactly what Coach Witt said we're good at. This is exactly what Coach Kingsbury said. You know, and he said, we better be accurate. We better be precise because, hey, I saw it move with some zip. Now, here's, again, receipts time. So let's go back to what Dan Quinn had to say about Russell Wilson.
First of all, when you're dealing with a quarterback, so Russell Wilson, you talked a lot about his success. Particularly, he's been really successful deep in the pocket versus shallow or rolling out. Obviously, without giving away any strategies or anything, like as a secondary member, how does that impact your mindset going into the game?
I think, number one, you better be ready for it to come any part of the field. Sometimes when a quarterback may roll out to one side, you can cut that part of the field off where it'll just be only thrown to this side. With him, and the arm strength that he has, he can be on one side and go across the field deep, or vice versa, all the way out to his left and going that way. So being on top of scramble plays and keepers and play passes, that's a big deal. But some guys just like to get deeper, to have escape lanes, that are outside. Others, want to be quick, to go in the B gap. So Russ has more experience, on the outside of things.
Did we or did we not see exactly what Dan Quinn described? We saw it. So when you all are listening to the press conferences, and I shared this in my previous episode over the weekend, which was if Coach Joe Witt Jr. tells you that he listens to press conferences, then that's a use your clues moment. You need to listen to the press conferences because then when you see things in game, you'll know that's what I'm watching. What you have to look out for is how the team is responding. Now, one of the things that I've been posting on my page is that I really feel like a lot of people owe Russell Wilson an apology. And I'm going to keep saying that because I have no idea why in the world anybody will say that this man is washed up. Do you really think Mike Tomlin would just, after the quarterback woes he had recently experienced, he was going to go out and get a washed up veteran? Do you really think he was going to do that? No, he wasn't going to do that. You got to give him a bit more respect than that. And I see this question here about Jayden's hand injury. No. And Jayden literally, and this goes back to the clip that I shared with me asking Cliff Kingsbury about the Steelers defense. They're moving fast because that's the whole object of the game. The Steelers defense wants to get the football. What's the fastest way to get the football? Get to the quarterback. Get to the person who has the football. They are quick and they are physical. That's all. That was the best defense they have faced so far this season. I'll go ahead and say it again. So far this season, that was the best defense they had faced. I knew that last week. I was like, this is going to be tough. And I know they're coming off a bye, but this is a bit nerve-wracking. And it's not so much about the defensive line. It's those linebackers. It's them. And I was like, and you're dealing already with a semi-banged up offensive line on the Commanders' part. Hey, ready for this one? Are you ready for this one? Okay, love button fire emoji. Andrew Wiley was missed yesterday. Never thought I'd say it. Never thought I'd say that, but I just did. Andrew Wiley was missed. He did not start. He was not out there. I think the team still did well. Let me be very, very clear. They scored 27 offensive points, all right? I think they still did very well. But there was impact there. Remember, there was a portion of the game as well where Tyler Biash had to go out, the center. So they had to do some more shifting. So that's 2 positions you had to shift in game on the offensive line. And they still scored 27 points, okay? So I still think that was very, very good. And in respect to that. And I tell people this, hey, definitely not washed. And I see this comment here. That's too bad because you may not be impressed, but he beat your favorite team yesterday and he did enough to beat them. You can't make mistakes like that on a team as well coached and with the players that they have. You just can't do that, right? And I see this comment here from Erias, right, about proof of the coaching. And I see George Taylor is on as well. You have to really consider all of the things that are happening. And here's another thing. When I heard, when Coach Kingsbury answered my question and he said, we better be accurate and we got to get the ball out. I said, fans are going to freak out because they're probably not listening to this press conference. And they're used to Jayden having time to make decisions. They're used to Jayden having time to make a decision and run. He didn't have that kind of time with this Steelers defense. And let me give you another use your clues. Do you have your notebook and your pad, your pen pad? Do you have it all together? Because let me tell you something. If anybody's watching the film, the rest of the league found a clue on where the weak spot is. Because that was for sure one. That was for sure one. The offensive line was playing better than the other defensive lines. That's just it. That's just it. But you gotta make them press. You gotta make them move fast. Because if you make them move fast, you're either gonna get one or two things: negative plays, like Coach Kingsbury said, which the Steelers can create. Right? You're going to get it inaccurate at times, Jayden, or you're going to get receivers who that thing is coming out, pow, coming in hot. Now they dropping passes. They've already showed teams how you can beat them offensively. It was right there. Everybody watched it. Now, everybody's got to adjust to the next time they see a Steelers-like defense. Because this is what it is when you get to that level, okay? If you really want to compete, you got to be okay with getting all the time in the world. And you got to be able to be accurate, right? Now you're rattled because it's taking you out of your natural habitat. You done did this 9 times this season. You didn't have to do all that. But they meaning the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, still created negative plays because they were making the offense move faster than they've been used to moving all season long against other opponents. Welcome to the big boy league. That's what happened. Yet, they only lost by 1 point. They only lost by 1 point. Still not there yet. But now they got to know a little bit more about what they're working with and what they're dealing with. That was a huge message. That was a huge message that was sent. Figured out how to beat them, y'all. This is what you do. Because here's the reality. An on-point offense minus the unique abilities of that Steelers defense, the Commanders win. So don't be upset that there was a team that actually did their homework, a team that actually spent that bye time figuring out how to get a W up in Northwest Stadium. That's what it is. People are going to be prepared. And no one should be surprised by that. Let me go ahead and, matter of fact, because I think I've already played enough of with the receipts on the Steelers defense. Let me play 2 clips from Jayden's presser after the game. Check this out.
Jayden, obviously, tough loss there. How did the locker room respond to everything after that game?
I mean, it stings. And you can see that the guys are very passionate about wins and losses. And it means something to them, matters. So that's where I kind of took away. It's like, hey, everybody's mad. It matters to them. Like, there's nothing we could do about it. We could just go on to the next.
Offense never really seemed to get into that efficient flow you've had all year. What did Pittsburgh do that kind of messed that up?
Yeah, I mean, hats off to them. You know, just a great scheme that they had. But, you know, we didn't make the plays and opportunities when they presented itself. So from there, it's like, man, going down, you know, maybe if I make a throw, we make a catch, you know, something like that. But they just have a very good front, like a really good front, and they try their best to get their guys one-on-one. So that's kind of what they did the whole second half.
Those one-on-one matchups was something else. I'm here to tell you. I was like, woo. I just want everybody to get out unscathed because it's a short week. Very short week. And I'm going to move on to this next clip from Jayden's after-game press conference because I'm sure you all have heard this quite a few times now. You all have heard me say it a gazillion times. This team does not like to lose. This is real. They get very, very upset when they lose. There are absolutely no moral victories. And nobody even wanted, you know, even though I'm saying they only lost by 1 point, that's part of my commentary. That's my position. And that's the one I'm taking. But let me tell you something right now. No one wants to hear that in that building. Okay. So very serious, very hurt by the loss, the team, because they knew they had a chance, and it was because of their own mistakes that they didn't seize the moment. They know that. They understand that. And I'm going to move on to Jayden's clip talking about Sam Cosmi. You all may have heard this in some of the reports already, that he was the one that addressed the team after the loss. He is not a public speaker, but he really felt compelled. He wanted to be the one to talk to the team after the loss, and so Jayden shared a bit about that.
What I guess Sam addressed the team after the game. What did you take from his message to you guys?
I mean, it hurts, and you can see that it hurts guys in the locker room. So, main thing I was like, man, these guys care about winning, and it matters to them.
Absolutely, they care. Love button fire emoji, Commanders fans. Round of applause. People who are way more upset than you are about them losing. And so let me go to a question I think I see in the chat from Johnny Hill. Your opinion, could this be a good loss looking forward to third? I'm not sure if you mean a good loss. I'm going to say this. There are no good losses. I think I say it because that's my interpretation, that's my perspective. But for the team, if they lose 2 in a row, they're gonna be in really bad shape. They're gonna be very, very, very upset group. Very upset group. Mm-mm. So they don't like to lose at all. I want to share this clip from Dan Quinn's after game presser. If you all are just tuning in, you're watching a live Bowie television recording. Was sharing this is the Washington Commanders update from the Coaching from the Couch series. I'm sharing exclusive insights from the Commanders' loss week 10 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 28-27. I'm Candy CWall Waller. Next up, I want to go to this clip from Dan Quinn after the game. I think it's so important because I think there's still this notion or thought process around saving players for a game, or saying, okay, we're going to sit you out to save you or hold you for another game. And I've addressed this. Wow, I've addressed this a few times now. Love button, fire emoji, thumbs up if you recall me addressing this topic now several times about how the team, and I've asked questions in press conferences as well, how the team handles injuries to players in the game. So this is a very, very short clip because it was right after the game, and Dan Quinn was upset himself as well. But I do think this is a very important point, you all, because I'm going to keep stressing this, because this is something that I think, because of the past cultures, because of stories told, because of things that we assume or have heard in the past, we think that somebody's getting saved, holding them all for the next game. And that's not what's happening here. If they can play, they're going to play that day because of just how this team thinks and feels about every single solitary game. So I think we have to unlearn that mentality with this coaching staff and front office. But let me play this clip.
Dan, were any of the injury decisions that you made based on the short week and the division game and the magnitude of it on Thursday?
It was not. No, it was all relative to this game. And so everything was just for this one.
One thing I can truly appreciate about this team, and this is from the front office to the coaching staff to the players, they are really focused on that game, right? They're focused on that game. And so they aren't, like, now they're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody was talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody talking about that, right? Because that's not how they're wired. This is not how this operates and how this functions. So I want to keep stressing that point. If a player can play, they're going to play them. And knowing how they are, we're now watching them have conversations with the players pregame. Like, we can see the pregame workout. We can see the coaches and the trainers there. We can see Dan Quinn looking from wherever he decides to stand and look. We can see him walking and talking with the player or having a conversation directly with the player, and then them coming together and all having a conversation together. We can see all of that. If it's a game day decision, if it's not a game day decision, you know that there's something going on. And it's just a lot of rewiring that I'm seeing that the fan base has to really go through because of the years of just misinformation and PTSD and all the other things, right? And just not having good, reliable, truthful, authentic media sources on site to rely on. So I can tell you, this isn't a gamemanship. This is, he can't play today. And this is the decision that we're making. Because if you can't be you, then no. Now, if it goes into a playoff, if you're in a wild card situation, maybe they're going to push the envelope a little bit. But they're not pushing the envelope in week 10. So let's just keep that where it is. Absolutely one game at a time. You're seeing also something that I talked about, I think on a show maybe I was a guest on. I don't even know. I'm talking to you all so much, and I'm reporting now so much that it's fantastic that I get to share this information, and sometimes I don't remember where I shared it. Which is Coach Joe Witt Jr., when he first came in his first presser, I asked him about depth because when he played the Green Bay Packers, they had when he played the Green Bay Packers, when he was coaching for the Green Bay Packers, the year they won the Super Bowl, they had the double digits of players they had on IR. They were in the double digits and still won the Super Bowl. Depth is a real thing for winning organizations and those that aspire to be very successful and have very high expectations of themselves. Are you following me? Are you following me? So this is also an area when we talk depth where I can tell the fan base and maybe all parties involved, media included, not used to an organization that understands, hey, look, somebody's going to get hurt. It's football. Somebody is going to get hurt. You just got to hope it's not you. For real. But somebody is going to get hurt. So why not have the depth? Why not have it? It should be there all the time. We've seen teams win with depth. We've seen teams go far with depth. It is a key component to success. Think of it in corporate terms, it's almost like a succession plan. When somebody goes down, the organization has to keep running. This is why they increased the number of the practice squad. This is why they even have a practice squad, right? Because you still have to play. You still have to play. Last week when I asked Coach Quinn, I asked Coach Kingsbury about the running back room, and he brought up Coach Anthony Lynn, because did y'all forget Anthony Lynn is the running backs coach? I told y'all a long time ago, you better go read your books on these coaching staff. These people are for real. Anthony Lynn was a head coach in the league. And attributed so much of the success of the running backs to Coach Lynn and his very high expectations and how they move and how they operate. Greatness, there is no room for mediocrity when you are dealing with leaders who are only used to greatness. Somebody might want to write that down, including myself. Don't let me forget I said that. That sounded very profound. But seriously, there is no room for mediocrity when you have leaders who are only used to greatness. Like, I don't even know what mediocrity is. So, hey, we don't have those kind of conversations around here. Everybody that's coming to play for me got to play like this. Those are the kind of people in the building. Don't forget, Anthony Lynn is the position coach. Of course, you're going to see that happen there. Okay, these people are not slouches. They're very good at what they do, as we can all see. So I'm here to also help us all, myself included, get rid of the PTSD. Unlearn poor behaviors, poor thinking, poor methodologies. These people are here to win. Mm-hmm. That is literally what they're here to do. So when it looks different, and it looks different because it acts different, and none of us are used to seeing what we're watching. Now, shall we? Let's go ahead and move on to talking a bit about the next week. But before that, wait. Before that, I don't want to go there yet. Let's go ahead and do this. Let me go ahead and do this one. Let me go ahead and do this. Let's get this one off of everybody's chest because I know you need to get it off your chest. Was the fourth and nine a first down? Was it or was it not? I cannot wait until you all the league comes back with whether it was or it was not, which will be soon, should be now, honestly, because Dan Quinn shared today that they were having a call with the league. Okay, so it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Either it was a first down or not. Which one was it? I see people saying yes, it was a first down. And there's still time to share this show, you all. We still have time because we still have some clips and everything to go through. So there is absolutely still time to share this show and make sure you're subscribed to Bowie TV, everyone. Let's jump to I want to see. No, I'm not going to jump to that clip because we do need to move on. We do need to move on. But the team did have a call with the league. I'm not certain what comes of that. Maybe Dan Quinn will share tomorrow in his press conference because just a note, logistics, housekeeping item, if you will. The team did practice today. Injury report did come out. It's a short week, you all. I think of note is that Marshawn Lattimore still did not practice. I think that is the one of note, for real. I think that is of note. Brian Robinson Jr. was limited. Okay. So we have to go through that. The media will be able to attend a portion of practice like they do throughout regular season and will be on site on Tuesday and Wednesday. The team leaves Wednesday to go to Philly. I don't leave on Wednesday. I leave on Thursday, but I will be in Philadelphia. Can I even talk? Philadelphia for Thursday night football. Okay. I'll be there. We'll see. Also of note, basically, Dan Quinn said he's going to stick beside Olamide Zaccheaus, okay, at punt returner. They're not making a change. You're going to stick beside him, all right? So you all put those thoughts in the chat of what you think about that. Let's move on to some clips. Dan Quinn today talking about looking ahead to Philadelphia. What's the name of this team? The Eagles. What city are they from? Philadelphia. Okay, now I can still speak. All right, let's just go to the clip, people.
And then how do you handle this short week with, a lot of guys are banged up and just making sure they're ready, but, as rested as one can be in such a short turnaround?
Yeah, it's a great one, and I'll hit both topics. The first one, you said injuries, and I'll probably have a better sense of that tomorrow. Some guys were still going through imaging, and that's all, as far as overall injuries, I'll have a better sense when I visit with you guys prior to practice. We got a big, deep crew, and we'll roll hard, but you do have to be selective in the way of how to touch the speed this week, and that'll be closer to Wednesday for us as we get to do that. Monday, today, and Tuesday would be a miniature version of what we'd install on a Wednesday and a Thursday, so that's how we kind of plan for the week. Today would be like a Wednesday, tomorrow's like a Thursday, the next day is like a Friday, and then get into the game from a teaching and install part. But you're right. You have to have the balance that not every player is exactly the same of what they can and can't do to get ready to play.
So I thought that was interesting to share with you all so that this is why I go back to key moments and points from the press conferences so that you all don't miss these points. You all understand how the practices are. Dan Quinn laid it out very clearly in terms of how they're practicing, what types of practices are going to take place this week on the short week. So let's move on to the next point, which I see that folks are dropping in the chat about this week being a big division matchup.
Considering all the circumstances this week and what this game could mean for the race of the division title, does this feel like the biggest challenge or big challenge week you faced since becoming the Commanders coach?
I don't know if it's bigger than any other, but I'm fired up about it. I can tell you that, Sam. It's cool. It's like better than the alternative of like not talking about big games. So like this is what like division games should be, man. Like an absolute blast. Like Philadelphia and Washington battling for it. Like hell yeah, like more. So, but it's not. I don't look too far down the road, man. It's like just this game. Last week I did the same thing to say it wasn't about 2 games in 11 days. It was just this game, just this matchup, and honestly, that's where I see it again. Division games are awesome, man. They're fun. They're a battle. You know them well. They know you well. Although we haven't played yet, a lot of players know one another's scheme and technique, pretty closely.
It's going to be a good one. It is. It is. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a battle for certain. The Eagles put on a show, didn't they, against the Dallas Cowboys? And I mean, hey, Saquon Barkley, good Lord. What an incredible season he's having. And tends to have. And the Philadelphia Eagles are just good. They're just very good. And it's another tough one, but before I move on, I got 2 more clips because I do think it's important to kind of close it out and talk about the brotherhood and going back to some mistakes that were made right yesterday that hurt the team. Seriously, you remove these mistakes. Like I said earlier, you remove a third of these mistakes, that game comes out different. There's going to be mistakes at times. There's going to be mistakes. But you still got to do your darndest to try to have as mistake-free football as possible. And that game was tough to watch. You know what? So much of the game, and I debated saying this out loud, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. So much of yesterday's game reminded me of week 1, where I'm watching and I'm like, now he know better than that. I don't even know where that came from. I don't even know how. Wow. But you had the week 1 excuse. Well, it's just week 1, and it's week 10. And I don't like, I'm sure, hey, I'm not playing. I'm not there, so I'm not feeling what they're feeling. All I can do is use my clues and my senses to say they are very upset, woo, like, and I've said this, right? Tampa Bay, like, whoa, they're mad. Ravens, clutching my pearls, mad. Oh my gosh. Wow, look at you. You're very upset. Very upset. Okay. Yesterday was a different kind of upset. And Jayden said it in his presser, right? They were hurt. It stings. And that was because they made so many mistakes. So many. And those are the kind of mistakes, though, that you have to say, are you ready for this moment or are you not? Right? Because you act like you're ready for it, but are you really? You are ahead of schedule. They've exceeded, Lord knows they've exceeded my expectations this season, my goodness. But they're still sitting at 7 wins, so I'm not going to rejoice and say, hey, y'all, I was wrong until they get to 8. So I'm going to move on to this clip about the teaching point for Johnny Newton, because that was rough to that. And I saw a comment earlier that said it never should have come down to that. I wholeheartedly agree. It should never have come down to that. But it did. And that mistake came at the worst of times. And for each one of these players, especially Johnny Newton, if you saw even in the moment Immediately he reacted and was so hurt and disappointed by what happened. And I hope you all immediately saw his teammates, even on the field, embrace him. They did on the sideline. They did in the locker room. He was very hurt. Very, very hurt. Olave Zaccheaus was very, very hurt. Very hurt. Like Jayden said, these guys really care. But I'm going to move on to this point because I think it's an important one. And then I'm going to move on to my questions from today. Because I'm just anxious. I was anxious myself in knowing a game like that. How do you handle making sure this doesn't happen again? So we're going to move on to one clip and then we'll get into my questions.
Also, on the offsides, is there a teaching point there for Johnny, or is it just you have to see the ball get snapped before you commit?
Yeah, it's definitely a teaching spot. And, in these moments where it's fourth down in that space, the one thing that he'll know, are they even going to go for it here? Is this going to be one that they would go or not? Is Russell a sneak guy to go? And so you just get so revved up. And as a good young competitor, it's a hard lesson, but one that this is the type of player, David, that's going to learn from this moment. He cares a lot. He's into it, and he's improving and developing, but it is a hard one. So to see all the players respond to him after the play should tell you what they feel about him here.
Very moving is what I'll say. I was quite moved by the embracing because all well and good, right? Facts on top of facts. If we didn't learn anything about this team against the Chicago Bears, it was they're going to compete until the very last opportunity is gone. They're going to do all that they can to still try to win the football game. And they were determined to stop that 4th and 1. And then that happened and it just crushed them. So with that being said, I'm going to move on to my questions from today. Drop in the chat any questions that you all have for me, and I will try to answer as many questions as I can, but take a listen to my questions from today's press conference.
Hey, Coach. So for you and your staff, when you need to give feedback to a player, how do you balance that corrective action without negatively impacting the brotherhood?
That's an awesome question, Candy. I think not one size fits all. And someone you need to, put an arm around and tell them, personally, hey, this is what we saw and this is what I've seen and this needs to change. And there's others in front of the team. Hey, this isn't you. This isn't what we need. And that's both fine. But getting to know what each player needs is important. The good news is, Candy, here we do have a standard about things. And so that applies to every player on the roster. So if something's not to our standard that we said, that's all of our responsibilities to say that to them. Now, you don't have to be a jerk in the way that you say it, but you do have to say it. You just can't overlook something that was incorrect or something that isn't to the standard. You can't look the other way. I want to make sure I'm clear with you on that. But so you do have to say it, but that doesn't mean you have to make the person feel small or act like a jerk when you're doing it, but you do have to get it corrected.
And Coach, with it being such a short week, I know you just mentioned that it's the same process, but do you get a little, maybe, I don't want to call it worried, maybe anxious about if those things can be corrected in such a short period of time?
Good news, we've got a lot of banked hours together. And so many of these things are ones that can be corrected. And so if there was a long laundry list of what was going on that felt bad, I'd say I would be anxious or worried. But this is a group that responds, and in a game that we have to make the corrections and move forward, that's okay. That's part of what we do. And so good news, a good bit of these players, Candy, will know the correction before we even come to them. And so that, to me, is the best of the best, where this is not kindergarten. We have to tell everything, no, put your backpack into the cubby. It's not that. Every game and instant is different. but you do have to get it right. You have to.
All right, let's move on to questions. You all, how bad is Jayden's hand? I'm going to be honest with you all. I'm not real certain where the whole Jayden's hand thing is coming from. Maybe I missed it in the game. Did he shake his hand or did he do? Yes, he did, but it's football. They often do. Jayden's not on the injury report. He's not on today's injury report because since they did, injury report did come out today, Jayden Daniels is not on the injury report. So I would not get into a how bad is Jayden's hand situation because I think if it was that bad, or if it was any bad, he would be listed on the injury report, and he's not listed on the injury report. So I will say that for now. What should I think it's very similar to the Ravens. You got a problem at quarterback over there. You got a problem at the running back. Good grief. And the receiver's starting to hit now. I need a bit more from the Commanders defense. I was on my Joe Witt Jr. yesterday. I was not pleased with what I saw from the Commanders defense at all yesterday. Because let me tell you something. With inaccuracies and drops, the offense got you up by 10. The offense got you up by 10 now, 24-14. And you end up losing 28-27. Somebody wasn't on their job. And I'm still so concerned with all of this chatter around Jayden Daniels because, yeah, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm concerned about the chatter about Jayden Daniels. It's because I asked Cliff Kingsbury about the Steelers defense. He just told you what issues that the Steelers defense are going to create, which would create either turnovers or negative plays. We saw that. We saw the negative plays. We saw the lost yardage. We saw the sacks. We saw that the Commanders' offense had to speed up the pace while dealing with some injuries on offensive line. Now, because of the speed, that's what I believe happened. Because of the speed, Jayden's got to try to get the ball out faster. That's now going to create some inaccuracies either with himself or with his receivers, resulting in those drops. He still scored 27 points. That other stuff, that's on the defense, you all. It's on the defense. Did they have big stops? Yeah, they had two, but they didn't have enough. There were times when I was like, if they don't get Russell Wilson off this football field, somebody please help him. Help him. Up 24-14 in the third quarter. That's not on Jayden. That's not on the offense. That's not even on the drop passes, everyone. Looking in the wrong direction at the issue yesterday. The issue was the defense. Too many missed tackles. Again, I'm going to go back to the point of it was too many instances where week 10 looked like week 1 for the Commanders. Now, all of a sudden, you all can't tackle. That was something that they were improving upon. No, not when you're up 24-14 in the third and you end up losing 28-27. With all the inaccuracies, they got you to 27. I'm not saying you had to hold the Steelers to 14, but they didn't have to score 28. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So much of what needs to happen needs to be And I knew somebody was going to ask me this one question. I was staying away from it. I was like, I am not getting into this first down. But anyway, I'm going to answer it. I think that the strategy needs to be very similar to the Baltimore Ravens, which they lost that game. So they have to take a page out of the Pittsburgh Steelers book. That's what you do. You create havoc. You create anxiousness. You got to get to the quarterback, point blank, period. You got to get to the quarterback. That changes everything. And another thing that Jayden said, again, another using of your clues, is your one-on-one matchups. All right, D-line, you're up. Get them. And the linebackers have to have a very good game on Thursday. Heard Frankie Louvu's name maybe one time yesterday, once. But remember back a few weeks ago, we used to hear him all game long. Needs to be like that. A lot of confusion needs to happen. I'm going to keep saying this about the secondary, and I'm about to be on my Joe Witt Jr. again, and I'm going to get to the question about, was that a first down? If the defensive line and the linebackers are doing a good job, the play doesn't get off. Not successfully. That's what's happening here. When your weaker spot is the secondary. Now, let's also be clear, because Joe Witt Jr. got everybody in check last week. Hey, look, y'all not going to keep talking about their fifth in pass game, in defensive pass game. Okay, they're number 5. You want to know why? Because of the teams that they've played, the defense has gotten so much pressure up front, they've created havoc. They just covering in the back. They don't have to worry about all that. And it's completely unrealistic. Like, seriously, y'all. These guys are going to get beat. We've been having this conversation since August. All right? For real. But if the defense, you got 2 other position groups out there. How many times was Russell Wilson on the ground yesterday? He ended up with an interception. But interceptions come from either inaccuracy from the quarterback, being a ball hawk, and that can come from any other player, right? Or creating havoc. I've already told you all, did you all write this clue down? This is a very important point. They have a goal, 3 or more turnovers a game that they have to get. You all can figure that out. Do they get those? No. No, they do not. So when you have that issue, it's not even an issue, because a weak spot doesn't mean bad, not to me. That just means it's not the strongest person. At this point, some of your receivers are going to get beat. Receivers are fast, everybody. They're fast. Unless you have a DB that was once a receiver, you'll see something different. Seriously. But you have to know this is going to happen, because there's a weak link back there, the weaker link. And people know it's right at this point, he's just a target. So it was immediately, the Steelers had so many physical players. Look how big they're running backs, right? They're tight end, they're receivers. They're going to separate and they're going to break away from you. Now, that's an area where the Commanders could definitely get better, where you have very physical people on offense that's just not catching the ball and falling. All right? Okay, you got to do more than just catch the ball. You got to create the space. You got to separate. That's what the Steelers are doing. You cannot expect, like, seriously, if this team, you got to go back and look at the numbers. If this team is fifth in pass game, then you're looking at the wrong, you're looking at the wrong position group to need to make the impact to make things easier for the corners. That's on your defensive line and your linebackers. And I'm going to say it again. The linebackers need to have a very good game on Thursday. Like someone said, they sure has gotten quiet with Frankie Louvu. That's because the Ravens found an answer for him. People watched the film. Steelers did something very similar. That's what that is. That's why I'm like, hey, I get it with Benjamin. I get it, right? And I asked that question to Coach Quinn after the press conference at the Baltimore Ravens game, right? But we already knew this wasn't going to be, we knew. But if they fifth and pass it, then hey, you already know what this is about, because this is a process and they all have to work together on this. They all do. So this is a major thing. I'm getting excited. So I'm going to keep saying that. That front, and hey, oh, by the way, can we limit these penalties overall and these mistakes? Dante Fowler Jr. had an excellent play. Then turn around and got a penalty. Tough. Right? Tough. It was a myriad of things that happened yesterday while the Commanders lost, even though by 1 point, it was a few things. Now let's go to the question everybody has, which is, and Jordan McGee is playing special teams, and they're working him into some of the defensive packages, but he's been excellent on special teams. Number 58, look out for him. He's been great. Was that a first down? I'm going to tell you this. I can't wait to see what the NFL says on whether that was a touch. Was it a first down? Was it a first down or not? I will say this. The play was absolutely designed at, exactly where he needed to be. That's why they executed it that way. Where I'm challenged with it is that there wasn't an extension of the play in keeping the football protected so that you ensured that it was clear that it got over the line. That's the problem. So while you may have the play is exactly for what it was supposed to be and where you're supposed to go, Zach Ertz didn't create. So there is no question where he is and where it has landed. That was my issue. If you're going to catch the ball and just fall, that is it. A situation like this, they're not going to overturn that. Too critical of a moment. Because in that point, guess what? You're in field goal range. That was like Hail Mary time or something like that, right? Creating a whole bunch of, because of the play in the fourth down, it's already going, right? It's already going to the league for review. I just think that it left too much to. I mean, do I think it was a first down? Yes, I absolutely do. But my challenge is, and why you can't really challenge it, is you didn't make it clear because you didn't overextend your effort and still continuing to keep the ball safe. So many of these plays, it's not so much about the plays, it's about the player. We see footballs that is like, how did you catch that? George Pickens had one. How did you catch that? How did you do this? How did you? Sometimes it has to be abundantly clear. And because it wasn't abundantly clear, the call was able to stand with no question because it wasn't abundantly clear. So there's that. Play design was exactly for it to go there, but tough break. Tough break. Because again, you see they're playing to the end. They're playing to the end. They're just trying to make it happen. Or something like that. Do you think a Saquon jump? It's the extra effort that has to happen there. It's the extra. Did Saquon have to jump over that man? No, he didn't. He could have just got tackled. But you got to make the extra effort to get away. You got to make the extra effort to make the play. You got to make the extra effort to get down the field, and that's where I was challenged. So, I think, there's that. You all, thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for hanging out with me. Short week, party people, short week. So we'll see what happens. I hope you all are following me on X. I hope you have subscribed to Bowie TV. If you're in the Bowie, Maryland and surrounding communities and area, and you have not cut your cable, you can find us on channel 11 on Verizon or Comcast Xfinity channel 77. You all, it is always a blast coming to hang out with you all and talking all the things Washington Commanders. All I'm going to say is this. We nobody knows what's going to happen on Thursday, right? But I do have a feeling it's going to be one that everybody's going to want to watch. I'm actually looking forward to a very good game. Let's hope I'm at least correct about that. It is a very, very good game. Because I did say that with the Baltimore Ravens. I didn't think they were going to win. I was just like, this is a very good football game right here. Now, yesterday, I did not say that was a very good game. Truth be told, both teams were looking kind of sloppy one time. I was like, my God, what is happening here? But I didn't say that because it was almost like a comedy of errors at one point. I was like, well, good. And I think I may have posted it. I guess whoever makes the least mistakes wins. That's what happens. I mean, that's typically what happens. But it was so many mistakes being made that I was just like, what in the world? Anyway, moving on. It is now week 11. So you all make sure you are tuned into my content. I will have to let you all know when I'm going to do another show because I normally do a show the day after the game. I don't think media is doing our press conference with Dan Quinn on Friday. I think it's next Monday. So I'll be doing the show again on Monday because I absolutely do like to get that information from Dan Quinn. I do like to get the information from Dan Quinn on the week prior and the week ahead for the show because I just think there's very important points. So with that being said, you all, thanks for tuning in and I'll be talking to you all again soon.